There's nothing we'll go there and then
9. Thanks, Sandra.
I was telling did you know what all those my name is Brendan. My wife was there behind me, and there were two people behind her. My wife. Because mine here, right? You know, just like
He might show up for anything in the speeches. I think the state different from that.
I'm gonna
Fine, yeah. Morning everyone. Cáthíirligh a bhéir a trolaí, a cóirlóirí a íana agus a cóirde go léir. Tá fáilte is fiche roimh go stráid déanaí trolaí ar maidin ag aithimnú oifigiúil hala cuoineáin Hamas ahas. Fáilte imribh na daoine sin a theastail i bhfad is a géin go háirithe muintear Hamas ahas agus iad siúd ar fad as lispóthil a bhaile dúchais. A haníon chorla chunta círí an méid a dhéann Hamas ahas ar san saoirse na hÉireann, agus táimid na i géirí anna bhródúil ar fad as a dhéann sé. Ní héan úntas mar sin go bhfuil ceann de na foirgnimh is táchtaí i géirí animnathe i gcuine duine de bhór léachra gael círí agus na hÉireann. Agus inniuh léirimid a ríis ar mród san áthasach, agus le comórtha céad a bháis amachróing tríad hala cuoineáin Hamas ahas a aithimnú dó. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Kerry County Council, welcome to the rededication of the Ashe Memorial Hall to Thomas Ashe in this, the centenary year of his death. I would like to welcome the Cathaoirleach of Kerry County Council, Councillor Michael O'Shea, the Mayor of Tralee, Councillor Terry O'Brien, and the elected members of Kerry County Council in particular, as well as members of the Oireachtas. Can I thank the Tralee Pipe and Drum Band for their recital. It's fitting, of course, that we have a pipe band this morning, given Thomas Ashe's own love of and association with the pipes. Our first speaker this morning to rededicate the Ashe Memorial Hall to Thomas Ashe is the Cathaoirleach of Kerry County Council, Councillor Michael O'Shea.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am honoured to be afforded the invite here this morning to formally dedicate the Ashe Memorial Hall to one of our great patrons, Thomas Ashe. On behalf of Kerry County Council, I would like to welcome the Mayor of Tralee, Terry O'Brien, our CEO, Myra Morrell, fellow council members, Oireachtas members, and special guests to the Ashe Memorial Hall here this morning. I would especially like to extend a céad míle fáilte to the members of Thomas Ashe's family, many of whom have travelled long distances to be here this morning for this special occasion. And I also welcome many of the people of Thomas Ashe's home parish of Lisbole and surrounding area, including pupils from the Scoil na Siúlta Ón Báiste in Lisbole who are here with us this morning. I am delighted that this morning's ceremony takes place on the day on which the reopening of Dinny Street, the two-way traffic following a significant investment in the enhancement of the street, which looks very well, I may say. In many ways, this ceremony this morning is a fitting conclusion to the renovation works of Dinny Street and part of the wider enhancement of a town centre worth over €1.7 million. It is very appropriate that we rededicate this iconic building to Thomas Ashe. 100 years after his tragic death, many of you will be familiar with Thomas Ashe's story, but it's worth recounting briefly the significance of his life's journey. Thomas Ashe was born in Kinnaird, Lisbole, in West Kerry on the 12th of January 1885. He became a teacher in North County Dublin, and he became involved in the GAA and in the cultural circles, not at least with the Black Raven Pipe Band. Thomas Ashe was a Republican from a young age and joined the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Gaelic League and the Irish Volunteers. He quickly rose through the ranks of the Volunteers and became acquainted with leaders like Padraig Pearse, Owen MacNeill, the O'Reillys from Ballylongford. During 1914 he travelled to the US raising money for the Gaelic League. Back in Ireland, Thomas Ashe became commandant of the Fingal Battalion of the Volunteers, which mobilised during the Easter Rising in North Dublin and Meath. He led his unit to the Battle of Ashbourne in Meath, which was one of the key engagements of the Rising. He was the last of the 1916 leaders to surrender. And on the 29th of April 1916, like so many of these rebel leaders, Thomas Ashe was jailed after the Rising and served time in various prisons. While in Lewis Jail in England, Ashe composed the poem, "Let me carry your cross for Ireland, Lord," which has become synonymous with the Easter Rising and the wider revolutionary period in Ireland. Thomas Ashe was released in June 1917 and spoke at the Roger Casement commemoration at Bella on the 5th of August 1917. On return to Dublin, however, he was again arrested and jailed. He went on hunger strike in Mountjoy Jail, and while being force-fed on the 25th of September 1917, he collapsed and died hours later. His funeral was one of the largest ever seen in Dublin, and was certainly a contributory factor in the revival of the Republican spirit after the Rising. A short graveside oration was delivered by Michael Collins. So today, as we approach the centenary of Thomas Ashe, premature, tragic death, we dedicate this beautiful building to him. It continues to stand as least a tribute to his memory, and this building of which Kerry County Council are so deeply proud of. Let this iconic building remain an enduring monument to Thomas Ashe and his role in achieving independence for our great country, Ireland. Go raibh míle amach a gcéad léir. Thank you.
I would now like to invite the Chief Executive of Kerry County Council, Myra Morrell, to say a few words.
Here a Vera Trolley, Tracta Dolly, agus Corda Galir. Mar Privaimanok, Corla County Kerry, Balteam Gomor, Riv Aham Nu, or an Bergen of Shod of Moss Ahish. Tá mana hásta ar fad bhfuil nacht Eileen Quinn agus a gailte eile dá chuid an seolinn ar madan. Tá anna áilta roimh. Tagam leis an méid a dúirt an cathaoirleach go bhfuil sé cór agus chuí ferganmh cóstarú seo a anamnú I gcuine léacra gael agus caríocht a bhí cótáchtach I stair na hÉireann. Tá cheangal le cóla chunta carí leis an bherganmh starúil seo le blianta fada. Ina ceann carú don gcóla ar feadh 60 bliana. Is an seo a bhí ceolar cóla ceantar ballachrálí chomh mála linn na blianta sin. A gcuinúis le go léir, it's a great privilege today to be here for the rededication of this building, the Ashe Memorial Hall, to the patriot Tomás Ashe and his memory. I also think it is fitting to acknowledge the foresight and the vision of Tralee Urban District Council at that time, who in 1922 acquired this site from the Denny estate for the building of this building. The construction completed, which was completed in 1928. And you must remember at that time it was one of the very few public buildings that had been constructed at this period in the history of the country and certainly in Kerry. And today we have this iconic building behind us. It's synonymous with Tralee, it's synonymous with Kerry, and it's synonymous with local government in Kerry. It was the local authorities' headquarter from a period of March in 1928 to December in 1988. And today a number of our key operations operate from within this building, as indeed does the County Museum, of which we're hugely proud in the county. So that linkage, it has been maintained and it continues today. So in conclusion, I want to acknowledge the very important event that is, and the very important summary that is here, and I want to thank you all very much for attending today. Thank you.
With us today are many members of the Ashe family who have travelled from several parts of Ireland to honour their ancestor. And among them here to your right is Tomás Ashe's niece, Eileen Quinn, who has travelled from Dublin to be with us. She's accompanied by her sons Colm and Angus, as well as Angus's daughter Aisling. So if I'm not mistaken, Aisling is Tomás Ashe's great grandniece. So welcome to her on a special occasion for the family. It's a great honour for us to have such a close relative of Tomás Ashe present. So now I'd like to invite Eileen Quinn, his niece, to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Lovely to be here with you to celebrate this rededication of the Ashe Memorial Hall. I can remember as a very small child being here. My father and mother came down here on holiday in a car and we stopped on the road out there. There was no problem with traffic. You could just stop wherever you liked. There was no one going to clamp you. And we walked around and my father was so proud of what he saw. He was delighted with it, and obviously when we went out towards Dinkin, we passed by it again and repeated the first dose. Stopped the car again and looked around and thought what a lovely building it is, and today it's still a beautiful and a lovely building. Now my job, I think, is possibly to put some flesh on the bones of the various things which have been said about my uncle. Obviously I never met him, that's my sorrow, but I would have loved to have met him. I know what I do from my father and from my aunt, who told me certain things, and that was the way I gathered my information. My father had a great relationship with him. He was the next in the family, even though they were a family of 10. My father was the youngest, the next boy died, and the next was my Uncle Tom. So they were quite close as a pair of brothers, and they played together and what have you. My father went to America when he was 18, thereabouts, but had a wonderful summer one year when my uncle was over in New York gathering money for Conor Gaeilge. And they spent every weekend together and had a lovely time, and he used to have lovely stories about it. Now, when we start into this 1916 commemoration, 17 and what have you, my theme, my whatever I want to call it, logo was, this is today, that was yesterday. It's very difficult to put your head into the think of people who are here 133 years ago for my uncle. I cannot think what he thought about other than his own parish. Everything was local. Now, of course, it's worldwide. Anyway, move on. He trained as a teacher at 18 years of age. He went to De La Salle in Wexford, Waterford, and got his first job teaching in Lusk, North County Dublin. And he loved his time there. He, I think, likes to get out of the place every Saturday stroke Sunday. But Lusk didn't have exactly a Coruscant per Éireann system there. Transport was difficult, so he bought a motorbike. And he was what we would call today a biker. And he wore the leathers. In actual fact, one of the nicest photographs of him is taken in Mountjoy, where he has a mug of tea in his hand and he's wearing his leathers. He not only bought one motorbike, he bought a second one. He gave the first bike to a friend of his when 1916 was beginning, the Battle of Ashe Hall is rolled up as. He gave it to a friend of his to mind, and when he got back, having served time in very many prisons, too many to number, he bought a new motorbike, a more updated one. So that was my uncle, the biker. Now, he went around the country. He lectured, encouraging people to do various things within the Irish culture. Song, dance, he played the uilleann pipes, and he had a band, I suppose you'd call it, up in Lusk, the Black Raven pipe band. Black Raven is the emblem of North County Dublin, and that was on their shirts. He enjoyed doing that, and it was something to give occupation to the younger members of Lusk, who on the winter nights didn't have much else to do. So they joined the band, and they became, and they won a lot of competitions in their day. Now again, my uncle, while he was teaching, he wanted to bring people to see rural Ireland, even though it's quite close to Dublin, but he brought up a lot of visitors. Maud Gon McBride was up, Roger Casement was up, very many others whose names I can't remember at the minute. They were in the school in Lusk and talked to the children there, so they knew what they were on about. Now, to go back again that little bit, he was, I don't know whether I'm really going backwards or forwards, I'm trying to just paint the picture of 1916 when he was taken off, sent to prison. He spent many years there, and as is already said, he was eventually captured and brought to the last one. He started off at the Curragh camp. I've always left that bit out, just, I don't know why, but anyway, he started in the Curragh camp. From the Curragh camp, he was moved to Mountjoy, and he met up with some of his friends there. When he arrived in Mountjoy, he was told, hand over all your clothes now, you're a prisoner. He said, no, I'm a prisoner of war. But they did not think alike, so his clothes were all taken from him, and he literally had nothing. So he was put into a cell. He was friendly with Ostelstack from this town, and they, as a group, decided they would go on hunger strike. I don't believe for 1 minute that they thought they were going to be left on hunger strike. I do believe they thought that it would be called off after day 1, but it wasn't, unfortunately. He was called up, maybe alphabetically, I don't know, the Ashe part, I don't know how he got first, but anyway, he was fed 5 times, artificially, with a tube going through his mouth into his stomach. And it was a mixture of milk and egg. He got sick after it, wasn't feeling at all well. And after 5 feeds, he had to be brought to the Mater Hospital, where he died. Now, after that, he was obviously dead in the hospital, so they decided they were going to have a state funeral. But how do you have a state funeral for a man who has no clothes? So they did a whip around, and anybody who was 6 foot tall or thereabouts, because he was 6'2", I think, they donated their clothes. So they dressed him up with boots, trousers, jacket, shirt, the lot. And these items came, funnily enough, from Eamon de Valera, from Michael Collins, from anybody who was tall, who could donate to this laying out of my uncle. He was laid out in the Martyr Hospital and then brought to the Pro-Cathedral for a high mass on the, I think it was the Wednesday. And from there, he was brought from the Martyr Hospital, from the Pro-Cathedral, I beg your pardon, to the state offices of state up on Parliament Street, where he lay, the door open, and 2 soldiers, or 4 soldiers, I think, actually, on each side, morning and night. Saturday, Sunday came, and that was the day of the funeral. Now, at this stage, a lot of work had been done, and they had gathered together a lot of people who wanted to be represented. Now, little flashback here for a second. If you remember, during 1916, we saw so many of these marvellous programmes on the radio, on the telly, and what have you. The Bishop of Dublin never appeared anywhere. He turned his back on everything that was happening. He didn't want anything to do with it. It was a man called Dr. Walsh. He didn't want anything to do with it. But when this state funeral came into being, he did. He wanted to be part of it. And he sent a courier, a messenger, to the people who were organising the funeral to know where they would like his carriage to be. And the carriage was duly there, blinds down, but it was a carriage that drove behind the corsage. A lot of priests then got sufficient courage to show their faces, and they came and they joined into that funeral. And so the funeral left the city offices and drove to Glasnevin. It took a very, very long time to get to Glasnevin Cemetery. It was, as they say, well, some people say an hour and a half, some will say 2. But it didn't meander really, it came in more or less a straightish way to Glasnevin. Now at this stage, my grandfather was there in Glasnevin with his daughter, my Aunt Nora. And he began to feel tired after an hour. And he said to Nora, "When is this going to end? I'm getting very tired." He was 75, and he had stood looking into a big hole in the ground with the coffin beside it, waiting for the interment. He just felt tired. My Aunt Nora said to Michael Collins, "Is there any way we can shorten this? Because my father is feeling very tired." So she talked to Michael Collins, and they were still coming in the gate of Glasnevin when Michael Collins said, "We have to finish the funeral." So somebody said here already, after a short speech by Michael Collins, he actually had a very long speech made out, but my grandfather was not capable of standing any longer. So they rushed the funeral, and he just said his very few words, arms were presented, and the body was interred much quicker than they thought it would have happened. But that's what happens when you get old. We can't stand up that long, and obviously it runs in the genes. I got that part of it. Anyway, that was the story of the funeral, and I think that's just a little bit of flesh rather, on the bones of what we've already heard. Now, if the Queen of England could come over here and her son and both speak a few words as Gaeilge, or say ormsa, cúpla focail a rá as Gaeilge freisin. Tommy on Clonasig, buiach de gachta a tá an seo aniu, an ócad wonderful, ócad margus, whatever word, a ceilúra lifse. Slán agus bannacht berbua.